Hi, Tony here, and in this video tutorial I'm going to walk you through how to build skip logic in CommCare. So in order to do that, I'm going to show you what it looks like on the paper version and how we adapt that onto the mobile, and then how do we actually build that in the back end through the app builder in CommCare. So let's get started.
So let's take a look at the paper survey and see what the skip logic looks like on the paper, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like on the mobile device, and then we'll take a look at how to actually build that in CommCare HQ. So let's start with the paper. Let's take example question 4. Do you currently receive any outside assistance with money or material goods? If it's yes, then you go to question 4A. If it's 0, do not know, or no, skip to question 5. So in order to show skip logic, CommCare actually uses thing called display logic. So instead of skipping, we have to look at the logic for something in order to display. So think of it as the opposite of skipping. It's more like what parameters need to be in place in order for question 4A to show up. So in this case, in order for 4A to show up, question 4 needs to be yes. Any other condition, it won't show up. So by default, it will go to question 5. And question 4A only shows up if yes is selected. I hope that makes sense. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the mobile device. So we took a look at what the paper survey skip logic looks like for question 4. And if it's, remember, it's do you currently receive any outside assistance with money or material goods? And if it's no or do not know or no answer, it skips question 4A, and it only shows 4A if yes. So let's take a look at what that looks like in CommCare. So here we are. If it's do not know or no answer, it skips to question 5. If it's no, it also skips to question 5, as you can see here. So if it's yes, it brings up question 4A. So remember I discussed that in CommCare, we have to build the display logic, not to think of it as a skip logic, more like display. So what are the parameters that are needed in order for question 4A to display? And it's actually based on question 4. Question 4 needs to be yes in order for 4A, right? Question 4, if it's no, I mean here, and or do not know, it skips to question 5. So what we're talking about here is question 4A. We need to set the display logic. What are the conditions that 4A needs to meet in order for it to look at, in order for it to display? So let's jump right into the CommCare HQ backend to see how we actually build that in to make it look like this. All right. So here we are in the CommCare HQ app builder. So remember, we're talking about question 4 and 4A. What are the parameters that 4A needs to meet in order for it to show up? So let's jump right in. So let's scroll down to question 4 and 4A. We've built question 4A into a question list, which is gotten from the group side here, question list. That is a question list. A question list allows you to nest multiple questions in one screen. And I'll show you what that looks like in CommCare after this. But for now, let's look at question 4A as a whole. Remember, we talked about question 4A only shows up if question 4 is equal to yes. If it's do not know or no, it will not show up. Only if 4 is yes. But you need to build that into question 4A's display logic. So remember, we discussed what is the parameters that need to be met in order for question 4A to show up. And that is if 4 is equal to yes. So let's do under here logic for question 4A. You select this button here, and then you just drag the question. Only if question 4 is equal to yes, which we've coded as 1 on the back end. So you save that. So now question 4A only shows up. The display condition for it is if question 4 is equal to 1. Right? And we kind of have the same thing here, right? So let's take a look at this. Other. This text freeform response other only shows up if question 4A, the person has selected other. So if we were to do the same thing, remember what we do. We show the display condition on 4A based on the conditions that need to be met is that if 4A they've selected other, then you get this text response. So same thing, we select this button here and you drag this question. And since it's a multi-select, it will say has selected the value other, which we've coded as E, right? So 4A other only shows up if 4A has selected E. So save. And then now, hopefully you get a good sense of what that looks like. So let's jump right back into the CommCare app and see how the question list affects the style of your CommCare build.
So let's take a look at what question list looks like in an actual CommCare application, in this case, this baseline. So remember, if question 4 is yes, we get 4A, and we built that into the display logic of 4A. But since we built 4A as a question list with two types of questions, this multi-select as well as a text, but that text only shows up if we select other. So let's go livestock, cash, and other. There you go. Other explain pops up. And that, remember, we built the display condition in this other if 4A has selected other. So if we select other, it pops away. If we select other, if we do not select other, it's not there. If we select other, it pops up. And this is only possible if it's within a question list, meaning it shows up on the same page and it helps you with context so you understand what other explain is asking for, and not if it's on a separate page, it would be a little confusing. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's it. Hopefully you got a sense of how to build display logic in CommCare, and as well as how to use question lists. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.